Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to call to order the retirement board meeting for Thursday, July 16th at 1:32. We would look at this time to accept a motion to approve our minutes from our last meeting. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second. No, go ahead.
It's been moved by our treasurer, seconded by our controller. Any further discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion is carried. Do we have any other items, Jason, before we go welcome Mark and turn it over to him?
Nope, I don't think so.
All right. Thank you. All right. So, Mark Schlegel, welcome. We hope you're doing well, and we will turn it over to you for Q2 results for 2020. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much. I appreciate it. Hope everybody is well, healthy, and safe. And I have to say, I do truly miss being up there and seeing everybody. So it's nice to see your faces on the Zoom as always, but hopefully we'll be face to face. So we'll see. Thank you. Just a couple of things. I mean, obviously I'll get into the portfolio and what happened, but I can't imagine. Was talking to Jason earlier in the week in prep for the call, and I said to him that I just can't. It's difficult for everybody, but given all that the counties have to go through and what you guys are doing and have to deal with, so I think it's hard on everybody else, but I can't imagine all the different areas you guys have to cover. So you're doing well, and good luck. And as I said, hopefully I'll get back up there. My son is going through all of his classes for Penn State in the fall, so we'll hopefully be back up there in August, at least to drop him off. So we'll see. Anyway, so let's get started. Really unprecedented time. Yes?
Are able with a unemployment problem. His name is Josh Furco. If you can give me a call back.
Hey, Steve, are you able to mute your phone? Sorry about that.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Steve, it's Mike. It sounds like you're on mute or not on mute. Do you mind muting yourself? All right, Mark, sorry about that.
No worries. I'll keep cranking. It's all part of the Zoom and work from home that we're all in. So I've had dogs barking, pianos playing. Somebody talked to me while they were walking their dog. 1-year-olds crawling around in the background. We've done it all. So anyway, it's good. So the thing about what's happened is it's been an unprecedented volatility, and not only on the downside, but also on the upside. So the good news is I'm reporting really strong positive returns, both absolute and relative, but obviously you can't take them out of context in terms of what happened in the first quarter. So if you recall, first quarter, obviously all of this is driven by COVID-19. And all the subsequent issues within the market and the economy are driven by the pandemic. But it was the quickest move to a bear market ever in terms of days, fastest number of days. So I forget what the number was, but it was really quick. I want to say 27 days or something ridiculous in terms of the number of days. It was violent. It was across all sectors, but it wasn't always equal in terms of where areas got hit and where they didn't. Same thing on the rebound. So now on the rebound, the volatility's been just the same. Good news is it's been on the upside, but there's been a lot under the covers in terms of what's happening within the market. Sector rotation happening not only weekly, but daily, and in many cases intraday. So the portfolio managers have done a great job navigating those nuances within the portfolio, within what's happening. And we'll talk a little bit about what's happening sector-wise, because I think That plays a big role. And then we'll talk about geography and how that's playing a role. All of these things coming into play, and they've really had to navigate and be very nimble. The key is that you're trying to make adjustments in the short term for what's happening, but also look out long enough to say, I don't want to go away from what we do, and I don't want to take my eye off the ball for the longer term, but I know that in the short term, things are changing. For example, on the retail side, when a restaurant isn't open, kind of hard to have earnings. So restaurant chains aren't open. What do? And so a lot of the analysis is sort of thrown out the window, and then you're taking new analysis. So we'll talk about all that as we get into it. Some other things macro-wise that are really that really helped out. So if you recall back in the financial crisis, the Fed and Federal Reserve, as well as the government, came in and helped out, but they were very slow to do that. It was really a slow-moving train wreck, so to speak, back in the financial crisis, and it took a while for that reaction. To the Fed's credit, to the government's credit, it was swift and it was very heavy in terms of the response. So the Federal Reserve came in, basically took rates back to zero, did all sorts of additional intervention in the markets. They were buying corporate bonds. They were started out buying investment grade. Then they went to non-investment grade. They were pumping tons of liquidity into the market. And it just wasn't our government that was doing it in our Federal Reserve. It was around the world. So unprecedented move domestically and then internationally from federal banks around the country, central banks around the world, and governments around the world. So I will say this, they really jumped in. Then you obviously had the PPP, and you had what the government stimulus was doing. So you had combined monetary and fiscal policies that were helping out. And we can talk about, so the initial response across the board was great. We still don't know how long it's going to take, and that's the big question mark. And so as we work through the portfolio, the PMs are now trying to navigate just that. How do I balance short term with the longer term? What's going to benefit? And I'll point out a couple of things as we go through that. Unemployment, obviously, was another unprecedented move there. It's coming back, as we all know, but in some areas not coming back in terms of the job market. So that's going to be a longer tail, and we're not sure exactly how that will play out, and you'll see improvements. But then one of the things that's different about this downturn, both in the market as well as in the economy, is that you are going to have fits and starts. And we're seeing that now as the economies reopen around the country, and then the virus spreads from state to state. It's going to be very lumpy. It's going to be jagged, uneven. And so we've got to navigate that and look at that. I will say this, I was just on a call earlier, and you all know that we have a really good life sciences team. We have 2 PhDs on staff that handle our healthcare and biotech sectors of the market. So we're obviously following that closely. I was on a call earlier today, and I think Ken said that there's over 100 possible vaccines that are in the works as we speak. And then a whole nother slew of treatments to help prevent hospitalizations and then deaths. So although us in the public, as we look at it, it's not happening fast enough on either front, it is incredible the speed that it's happening in the medical healthcare world in terms of how much is being thrown at this. So, I think that's really important to think of too. It can't come soon enough, but you're seeing with the economy reopening, the market's been moving, and I do think that the market is responding to all that is being thrown at the therapeutics as well as the vaccines. And we can talk a little bit more about that. Let's see. Anything else off of the macro as I've got jotted down here? We'll talk about small caps and coming out of a bear market. We have some interesting tidbits to share with you there. Firm update, no major firm update. We're about $4.7 billion in assets under management right now. I talked to you on the last call. We've been operating remotely, as you all have, since early on in the pandemic. We haven't had any hiccups. We've done quarterly reports, meetings, operations, everything, trading, all done remotely. That's gone really well. And we have a few personnel in the office, kind of critical folks, technology, head of technology and things. But for the most part, we're all remote. And at this stage, we are taking it slowly, focusing on the safety of the crew. And at this point, our next decision point will be Labor Day to determine whether we do a next phase in terms of bringing folks back to the office. I don't think we're the exception. I think we're more the rule, especially in our industry. And I think you'll see that probably between now and the end of the year. I think folks are going to err more. If they can operate remotely, they will. As I said at the top, I wish I were there in person. I think that interaction is really important. But we also know that we've got to be careful as we are navigating through this. All right, so anything else in the firm update? We did bring on 2 associate analysts during this pandemic. They don't cover stocks. It's really a 2-year kind of apprenticeship with our consultants or with our, analysts. And so they'll learn the business. They'll learn how we analyze things. It usually takes a couple of years before they're actually covering stocks on their own. Both of the individuals came out of our internship program. One actually graduated and then went on for several years to work in an industry and then came back to us, another directly from our internship program. And I'm going to digress for a second. Our internship program, as you guys know, is really important to us. We actually kind of doubled down on the internship program this summer. We had a lot of inquiries. All of us who have college-age kids know how difficult it is for them to get internships during this time. A lot of them were canceled. So we said we're going to continue the program most definitely. And we actually have, I think, 9 interns. We normally have 6. So we have a 50% increase because we really, we kept having folks come to us and say, I've had 1 or 2 internships canceled. I really need to do something. Do you have anything, do you have anything left? So I think that's really important for us to continue. And as I talk to other parents of college age students that are in their sophomore and junior years, it's been quite a difficult situation for the students across the board, but with the internship program. All right, enough of the macro and the sort of summary stuff. I do want to point out one page I don't normally talk about, page 5, which talks about analyst coverage. I bring it up because we're going to talk about we're going to talk about small cap coming out of bear markets at the beginning of bull markets. So if you think we're going to go lower than where we were in March, then we're not in a bull market. The next one, obviously, we're still struggling along. But the bear market, if it has ended, small caps do really well coming out of that. And one of the reasons is because it's the most inefficient asset class. And on page 5, we don't usually talk about it, but we leave that in there. The less people looking for fundamental analysis, the more opportunity for folks like Emerald who do their own work to take advantage of that for their clients. So I'll point 2 numbers out. Far right-hand column, Russell 2000. There are almost 60% of companies in the small cap space that have less than 5 analysts covering them. In the large cap space, it's only 4. So if you just think about it, if there's more eyes trying to find the information, that means there's less inefficiency, there's less opportunity to outperform. In small cap, there's much more opportunity to outperform versus just an index. All right, page 10, which I always joke, you guys probably don't hear anything I say before page 10 because you turn to page 10 and go, how's that work with our ARC? What are we going to owe? What's happening? And that's okay. I get it. You have to run the county. So second quarter, the county was up in the portfolio almost 27%. So absolute fantastic return, and also relative return beating your benchmark. So, we talk about active and passive and why you have an active manager. I think over time we've proven that we do add value above that benchmark. And we clearly showed that not only in protecting on the downside in the first quarter, but also participating in the upside and outperforming on the upside in the second quarter. And then year to date, unfortunately, still negative. And we're almost positive now. I just checked the third quarter. You're up around 3% so far. So you're right about down 1% or so year to date. So made up even more ground here in the third quarter. But you can see versus the benchmark, almost 8% better or more than 8% better than the benchmark. Trailing 1 year, you're 3.67 versus down 6% for the benchmark. That's 10% difference. I will tell you this. I'd love to be able to tell you that we're always going to be on a 1 year basis more than 10% better than the index, but that's not going to be the case. But it's really good to see that over that time period. Trailing 3 years, 5 years, and since inception, all very strong versus the benchmark, up 6% versus the benchmark, 4% and 2%. So, and those are annualized numbers. So that's every year that we're giving you that. And I believe above that on that 3.5 and since inception, that 8% or above 8% is still well above your rate of return that you all are trying to reach. So let's jump to page. Let's jump to page 17, if you don't mind. Page 17 is going to talk about what sectors performed in the first quarter versus the second quarter. So one of the themes that we saw was sectors that underperformed the most in the first quarter, that were hit the hardest, actually did the best in the second quarter. So consumer discretionary was down 43%. That's an obvious one, right? When shops aren't open, when restaurants aren't open, when amusement parks aren't open, gyms aren't open, you really aren't going to be able to perform. And then they were up 51% in Q2. Energy, another really tough segment of the market, down almost 60% Q1. The sector was up 44%. And then things like technology and materials, same thing. They were down a bunch in Q1 and they bounced back the most. The only sector that was down in the Q2 was the utilities sector. That's very interest rate sensitive. So, and we can kind of talk about the sectors, some of the things that the portfolio over the year has done over the course of the first half of the year. So in the consumer sector, and let me go to, if you go to page 20, that's going to give you the performance of the sectors in your portfolio versus the benchmark. So a couple of things I'll point out. The good sectors for the quarter: consumer, discretionary, and then staples. Technology, those were all good. Difficulty, financial services, and healthcare. Kind of interesting. Just two on. I'll touch on the ones that underperformed. Financial services, you can probably guess that's the case, right? You have banks that have loans out. You've had the interest rates going to zero, and they've had to handle the PPP. There's fear that potentially once the Fed and government intervention goes away, that you could have some issues with the banks. So that's where folks were selling in that area. Here's interesting because I talked about the focus on the therapeutics and the vaccines. Most of that is at the very large cap area, so the very big companies, and not at the small cap area. So I think a lot of this was sort of rotation, where people were shifting within healthcare to more of the large names to try and catch the vaccine hype or the therapeutic hype. On the good side, we'll talk about consumer discretionary. So one of the things that Stacy, who handles our consumer discretionary, and the team talked about was in the beginning, in the first quarter, they were shifting away first from supply chain issues when the pandemic was hitting China, and they were trying to figure that out. And then once the pandemic came to the States, then it was trying to figure out, okay, what is going to, as things were closing, what would be reopening first, and then what would consumers be spending their dollars on first? So, and it's been really, it's logical when you think about it, but it's been really interesting where people have been spending dollars. For example, Trex is a company we've talked about in the past. They're the composite decking company. Their orders have gone through the roof, right? So people were staying at home. They figured, I'm not going to go anywhere this spring or summer. Better redo that deck because we're going to spend a lot of time with the family here on the property. So that's an area. Obviously, you've heard about RVs. RV sales went through the roof. Boats, things like that, where people thought, okay, I'm not going anywhere. And then we'll also talk about the housing, which had bounced back, which was really interesting. But on the consumer side, they readjusted the portfolio, moving out of positions that were luxury type of goods, individual, like maybe handbag companies, or we pared back a little bit of the shoe company that we owned, and then moving to like quick service restaurants that were more takeout than they were sit down. And this adjustment throughout the first quarter and second quarter, all of these adjustments, as you can see from the performance, helped. Consumer staples, we joke about the Fresh Pet, but that has been strong. That's on one of our top performers. And the next page does have our top performers. We've talked about most of these. Trex, Chegg, Chegg is a great example. Kids coming home from college early and having to do online learning, that has increased the need for Chegg because they don't have the resources at school. So that's interesting. And I'll just, a little anecdotal evidence here. Also, what they have found is Chegg has found that there's been a lot of new users where they believe those users were sharing somebody else's login at college. So if I walk down to my buddy's room 2 doors down, I know that he's not on Chegg. But if he lives 2 states away from me and we're doing online learning, I don't know that he's on. So now I try and get on and I can't use his password. So now they're having to, imagine that, college kids sharing an online password. You never thought that would happen, right? So they've had an uptick in their business. I talked about home builders. I just want to touch on one, Meritage Homes. That got hit in the beginning of the pandemic when everything shut down and we weren't sure what was going to happen. But it's really rebounded because there is a shortage of new housing. And so you've seen people leaving the cities. Center County, I'm sure, will probably be a beneficiary of that. And people moving away from, New York and San Francisco and Chicago and wanting to get further away. And they're looking for new housing. So that is something that we look at. So we've talked about a lot of these other ones, Fresh Pet. On the detractors on page 22, just briefly, I'll talk big picture. A lot of financials on there. I talked about financials struggling, so you'll see that, banks. SeaWorld, not surprising. We actually, that was a play as it took a downturn with the closing. And we thought with the reopening that would be good. It was, but then with California and Florida starting to shut down again, that's going to be a longer term play. Let's see, anything off of there? The only other thing I want to touch on, and then I'll open it up to questions. So if you turn to page 36 and 37, so on these 2 pages, I talked about small caps leading out of bear markets. So we don't know if we're out of the bear market. We don't know if the lows that we hit in March are going to be the lows, and we'll move up from here. My guess is I'm almost positive we're not out of the woods yet. There's lots of stuff that's going to happen as we move forward. As I said, it's going to be a lot of fits and starts. And especially until a vaccine is found. And then even when it is found, it has to be administered. And so, and how many, how much are they going to have? So it won't necessarily be a straight line. But if in fact we did see the bottom in March, small caps outperform coming out of bear markets. So they do better than large and mid cap. And these two charts show that over the next 2 years, they lead the other market cap ranges, large and mid cap, in performance coming out of a bear market. So that was some interesting research that we had come upon in the last couple of months. So I have babbled on for a while here. I'm going to take.
Hey, how you doing?
So any questions out there?
Well, first, Mark, I just want to give you you're not doing enough to pat yourselves on the back. And much like the coronavirus, predicting what's going to happen with COVID-19, you rarely can predict what's going to happen with the market. You can kind of have some guardrails or some appreciation of where it's going to move. But you really have done, you and your firm have done a phenomenal job of helping us on the downside, as they say. And we have not seen that type of results from other folks, and we've been letting them know and giving it to them, and that may affect future decisions we make on allocations. But we really, really want to commend you and your firm on doing what you've done, and because it's been very remarkable. So we appreciate that.
Thank you so much. It's Mike. It's really great to hear that. We've had a long-term relationship with the county, and we've worked hard every day to produce results. They don't happen every quarter, as you guys know, but I think over time we've shown that the process works. The people are good at what they do. They're also good people, which is a nice bonus. And I think that's why we're able to have a long-term relationship with you all. But I thank you for mentioning it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Now, having said that, we always say that December 31st at 11:59 p.m. is the number that really determines our arc. So we still have plenty of innings to play in the game. However, we at this point in time, we just want, for myself personally, I just want to say thank you for the work that's being done here. But also you give a thorough overview of everything. It's from top to bottom. You let us know where you're at with things you're working on and changes in the firm. So we appreciate that very much. No questions from me, but we'll happy to take any feedback or comments from others.
Anyone?
Yeah, Mark, I just wanted to echo what Mike said. It was really an impressive second quarter, more so than some other results we've seen or will be seeing, I think, just from some of the tracking I've been doing. But, that's really a testament to the work that everyone at Emerald does. And, to have the bounce back that we did from the first quarter, which was not, as we all know, a very pretty quarter at all. The comparison to the Russell 2000 and everything is just, that's really just impressive. So I just want to echo that.
Thank you so much. And I wish I could take the credit for it, but Ken, Stacy, Joe on the PM team and all of our analysts are the ones that really bring that performance. And it's funny because if I have them on a call, I introduce them and I talk about the market and how fascinating the first 6 months of the year are. And then I joke and say that I don't think they'd use the same adjective as fascinating. They're pulling their hair out every day trying to figure out, where do we go? How do we adjust the portfolio? What's happening? And, they really, I appreciate it. I'm going to pass along the comments of the committee because they are, you guys are all elected officials. You get, you're marked to market every day by your constituents. We're marked to market every day by the market. So, we get the feet to the fire and there's no relaxing, and they don't relax. I get to at least come up and have lunch with you guys. They have to stay at home and actually, do some work. So thank you very much. Any other questions I can answer?
I just also want to say, Mark, great quarter. You guys are doing a wonderful job. Very happy we've got some of our portfolio with you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right.
Any other, Colleen, Commissioner Dershowitz, anything else to add?
Nope. It's looking pretty good and pretty straightforward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, super. All right. Well, again, Mark, we wish you and yours safe and happy days, weeks, months, and years to come. And we look forward to seeing you virtually in for the third quarter debrief. And again, we hope we are still singing your praises. So with that, we will look for a motion to adjourn the retirement board meeting at 2:02.
Motion to adjourn, Commissioner Higgins.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, everybody.